music.
Party's not a bat, he's a man who fights crime. And we're gonna watch him fight for a minute at a time. With John and Niall and a guest who doesn't rhyme. It's Bat Minute!
Rats! My attempt to analyze each minute of the Nickelback discography has failed again! But I still have high hopes for the minute-by-minute format. Hello, everyone, and welcome once again to Bat Minute and Robin. That's the name of the thing. It's the podcast where we break down and analyze and dictate about the failures of Joel Schumacher's Batman and Robin movie from 1997, 1 minute at a time. I am one of the hosts, Niall McGowan.
And here to prove that there are no failures in this masterpiece of a film, only glorious tragedies. It is I, John Parker, your other host.
Yeah, and big week. Big week, lots of new faces, new places, new voices. We need some new voices to help us cover these new faces and places. So all the way from Time Warp Radio, the podcast that is breaking down, is completed, broke down Rocky Horror Picture Show, 7 minutes at a time. It is Hayley Mervini.
Yes, hello.
Yeah, and Katie Tomeny.
Hi, it's me.
Woo. Thank you for joining us. This is exciting.
Thank you so much for having us. We, I loved watching Batman and Robin for this conversation today.
For the very first time.
For the very first time. I'd never seen it.
Oh, that's great though, because us and a lot of the guests have sort of grown up with it, and it's either loved or hated. And most of the guests so far, not fans. So it's exciting to have a fresh pair of eyes on it.
Yes.
What's your history with like Batman in general? Is it like, oh, I love the Nolan movies, but never looked at this, or is it like you complete Batman newbie altogether?
I'd say I more so grew up with the Nolan movies. I'm not that young though, but it's like those were the movies that I think I missed the Burton Batman period. You know, I think I was a little too young, and maybe my older brother was like the prime demographic for the Burton and Shoemaker was what I wanted to, Joel Shoemaker. Those films. And so I just have a very dark perception of Batman, and like that the themes and topics are usually pretty heavy. And so this was a welcome romp of a time, to be honest.
Meanwhile,
so you never usually hear the term welcome with Batman and Robin, so that may be a first in the world.
I grew up with these films. Like I own all of them on DVD. I've watched them all a billion times. Batman Returns is like my favorite film maybe of all time. Like I absolutely love this series of Batman, and so it was so funny. She comes to me and she's like, this one was so fun. Nobody dies or anything. I'm like, Batman doesn't kill people. That's like the whole thing.
But then it's like, we'll probably get to it, but like the fact that there's like a zaniness and villains in this were so zany and just, I felt like the stakes were high, but they were fun and not dangerous.
Which is what I mean, my favorite is Returns, right? But I love those things about this movie that you've just said. But it's also the stuff that a lot of people don't like. I don't know why. I think people just don't like to have fun.
Exactly.
Yes, they reject their ability to like just have a good time because they're like, no, I need to suffer. I want to
be
suffer.
fair, you know, it's difficult having a good time. You know, even smiling makes my face ache.
That's digging deep into the well now. You've gone back about 3-4 years
That's a good
there.
one.
Yeah, we're on minute 16 of Batman and Robin. And minute 16 opens with a teen titan thawing, and it ends a minute later with a debuting doctor dictating.
Oh, I like that.
Those words, those were great. I just want to compliment the words you used.
Oh, thank you. I wrote them down myself.
What did both of you then make of this bubble toil and trouble at the start here with Robin? Because last week we like that he was frozen, but the model was clearly just like the lightest thing in the world when Batman picked it up and just threw it in the water. Like there was no effort whatsoever.
I did think that. I did have that thought of like, wow, Batman's super strong right now.
Maybe he has like electronics built into his suit to help him be
hydraulics.
Extra. Yeah,
he like amplifies his strength.
You know, why not? Why not? With some of the stuff we're going to be talking about this week, that makes perfect sense.
I am chagrined because it's a perfect opportunity for a callback joke as well when he lifts him up out of the water, because he could be like, you weigh a little more than 108, which would have been like, Dick Grayson would even be like, what are you talking about? He's like, oh, it's a thing I said back in the 89 movie, but like, I'm doing a callback, all right?
Yeah, but, oh, wait a minute, you weren't there. Never mind.
Oh, no, you weren't even born yet, young man,
So
young boy.
He sets him into this just like convenient bath, and then he makes him a hot tub.
Yeah.
Which is quite erotic.
Thank you for saying it. The whole movie, I was like, this is not so vaguely homoerotic.
The whole movie is just... it's amazingly gay. I love it.
It's so good. I loved every minute of it.
There is an upcoming iceberg, as it were, of just like, the blatant homoeroticism between Batman and Robin as characters. There's an entire friggin' just encyclopedia entry about Dick Grayson's ass just in culture. Like his butt has been studied extensively.
I did my thesis on it.
Yeah, it's one of those major things of like, okay, so one day we're going to have to talk about...
Please, could you just email that to me later? Thank you.
I'll send it over. Yeah, it's fine. I've still got it.
Yeah, it's one of those things of like, okay, one day we're going to have to sit down and talk about the legacy of Dick Grayson's ass. And this is
a bonus episode. This movie, I think we bring this up every week. This movie is very butt-centric. There's a lot of booty. There's a lot of crotch.
I loved it. Every time it happened, I would go, but I was so enjoying it. Like, clearly it was made for me. Like, and viewers like me that are like, ha ha ha. Or maybe I'm just a butt person.
And I mean, I can definitely say that this is my least favorite bat suit out of, I think, the entire history of Batman. It's horrible.
I'd say it's my favorite.
Okay. Oh. That's a choice.
I like the nipples. Sue me.
But I will say, though, one thing, like, I really do, like, I still can't find whatever's happened to this frozen Robin, like, model.
Like, prop.
Yeah, and it's really, but, like, I imagine, like, it'd be great if Chris O'Donnell,
oh my god,
if he took that home and, like, every time he needs, like, oh, I can't make it, send the model. So, like, if he's a kid's baseball game, it's just, like, Chris O'Donnell's frozen Robin form with a baseball cap on it in the stands.
Oh, my God, yes.
No, he has it in the shed in the backyard, and that's just where he goes when he's feeling really down on himself. He's like, at least it's not 97. And then he, like, walks back inside and is like, okay, I'm good. I'm still on, like, NCIS. Whatever TV show he's on.
But then it also has a sad negative aspect as well, because he'll go in, he'll stare at his frozen in the 90s visage, and he'll realize he can never be young again.
Ooh, doomed to always stare in his younger mirror.
Although, I'm saying this, but he still looks pretty good.
He does.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. He could get
He's always very good-humored about it. Like, 'cause every time they bring up Batman or Robin, too, he's always like, yep, let's talk about it. Like, he doesn't seem to have any, like, oh, no, I will never speak of that again. He's just like, yeah, that's right, I was Robin. And
he gets it. He knows what movie he was in. He was in a movie where he can be thawed out and have absolutely no ill effects.
Yes.
Well, that's one question I do have about this, is that, like, I actually love the line when he comes back up and he's like, "Did we get him?" Because it's genuinely funny. It's like, no, that's a joke. It totally works.
But it's right after Clooney as Batman very sensually takes out this laser pointer that's just the right temperature to warm that nice bubbly water and
He knows
defrost Robin.
He knows just how hot Robin likes it.
Exactly.
I do have like a very dark headcanon as to what the bat laser is for, because like it's like, well, why else would you need this thing? And I'm thinking, I remember an episode of the Superman animated series in the 90s where he was fighting Doomsday, and Superman's tactic to taking out Doomsday was to lobotomize him with his laser eyes, and every time Doomsday would grow back stronger. And I was like, maybe after the end of Batman Forever, it involves the Riddler getting his brains addled. Basically, that's how he's defeated. His whole brain-sucking machine backfires on him. And so I'm thinking maybe Batman's like, you know what it'd be? I don't have to kill people.
Exactly.
But if I had a little laser, I could just addle their brains.
Ugh.
And then I carry this around with me. That's the end of
hate
crime.
that.
I didn't kill anybody, but they might as well be dead, I guess.
He's found a loophole.
Yeah, it's just like I go in, I zap them, reach for the temple,
It's
zap
even
that a
more
couple of times.
evil when you consider he's the wealthiest person to exist in the universe he exists in. And he could fix a lot of Gotham City's problems, but instead decides to wear a cape and fight crime on the streets. He's got to kick some butt.
At least he's not Elon Musk, though.
Yeah, but at least he's doing something for Gotham City tourism. I think that's the right way to look at it. But the thing is, though, we actually this might be the first time in any of the movies we leave Gotham City. I don't think in any other of the Batman films we've covered we actually leave the city limits until this minute now, where we're thrown into. I think like the scripts, whatnot, to specify it as being like, somewhere in like South America somewhere.
It's vague, but you can find out where it's set.
The thing is, this is all comics accurate, but not to Poison Ivy, but to another character who's coming in a couple of minutes' time. But this should be Santa Prisca, which was a South American nation created for the Question comic books. I think that's where it's supposed to be. But then they do change the name of the prison, because the building they're in is supposed to be a prison, and they change it to Prison Morte, which I guess just means like death prison.
Yeah, death prison. Casual.
Subtle.
In the comic books, that would be called Pena Duro, which means sentence hard.
That is much better, because like although it's still over the top and really on the nose, it sounds vaguely like a name that might be used in the past.
That makes total, like, I don't know, because they used, like, not to get into the next minute too quickly, but like things like Project Gilgamesh is like, well, why are you calling it that? And then you can't call the prison what it's called in the comics. Like, it doesn't make any sense to me.
It's very weird. It's very weird. And this does not look like a prison. I'm sorry, it looks like a castle, maybe, with a lab in it.
I think it's just all been, I have a much uglier word for it, John. Misappropriation.
Of funds? Well, that then, not to jump ahead too much, but then why is Pamela so shocked that something seedy's going on? It's like, if your boss who is going, we're going to work on this research about the plants. Okay, cool. We're going to go to a South American jail. That's exactly the place we want to set up shop.
She's not exactly all good either. Like, the work she's trying to create, the plant matter that she's trying to, like, change their genome, is to make a bunch of Little Shop of Horror monsters that can eat humans as a predatory defense.
Well, I'm a vegetarian, so I support this.
I know. Halfway through the movie, I was like, I don't see anything wrong with her character. She's like, I'm totally on board with her message entirely.
Yeah.
But I think she's not exactly the cleanest character either to be. No, she might be a shady scientist that is like, because we don't get a lot of their backstory between the doctor and her, right?
No. That's it's kind of difficult to ascertain. Like, are they part of a team of scientists, or has he just brought her over with him, or did she come over and then he just went off and did his own thing?
No, I
what's
fully
happening
get the
with these-
dynamic. It doesn't explicitly say, but it's his project, and he's brought her on because he knows, like, oh, this is someone who's excellent in this field, in this very specific field. Their dynamic and their conversations, he definitely feels to be the boss, even if he hasn't earned it. Like, he maybe he's not as good as her.
See, I kind of got the vibe it was more like Wayne Enterprises sent them both over to work on something. He just went like, okay, I'm going off and doing this. And then she was like, I can work on my animal-plant hybrids while we're here.
Right.
And then there's both of them are like just misappropriating, the corporation's funds to do their own demented side projects.
It is as
Yeah,
much as
what does Wayne Enterprises have funding in that research lab for?
Don't worry about it.
Exactly. They don't really go into that either.
Secret.
yeah, I guess they could just be. Maybe it's to help solve like hunger. If you help plants survive harsher winters and droughts and things.
Yeah.
Maybe that's the thing Bruce would
GMOs
be
and
would
stuff.
be worried about. Yeah.
That's interesting commentary then. If you're thinking that, like, we want to blame corporations for funding XYZ evil, right? But then at the end of the day, like, the scientists are doing the research that they're doing and the corporations are just funding it, like, at the ground level. They could be working on anything like these two scientists are using the funds for.
And you can hear, as much as I jokingly support the idea, you can hear that when we meet her, Pamela has already gone off the deep end. The way she's talking and ranting, it's like, oh, something's not quite right with this woman.
We'll say, though, before we get into the building, one thing I always missed up until minute-by-minute analysis, and I absolutely love, is the stop-motion lizard crawling up the tree. Like, that's just a real, like, no need for that to be there. Doesn't need to have it. It was like, yeah, put in, like, a really... So it harkens you back to, like, older movies. It was like, oh, it's like a real Ray
CGI.
Harryhausen. Yeah, but just like, oh, it just looks like an old-timey, like a Ray Harryhausen movie.
Yeah.
Or could be like an olive branch to Tim Burton, because, like, well, he likes stop-motion. We'll put in a stop-motion thing for him.
I thought of Star Wars like I always do. It felt a bit like something you'd get in one of the original trilogy. You know, maybe on Dagobah, where you got Yoda. Although they used real animals in that particular section of the film, you could imagine Lucas have, done something like that back in the day.
Yeah.
Well, in fact,
Totally.
the every time I rewatch Return of the Jedi, I always forget that in the original cut, it's got that goddamn frog that eats and burps.
Oh, yeah.
I always think that's a special edition change, and it's CGI. It's like, nope.
No, it's just like
Very important to the plot, okay?
Very important. Which, as much as it's my favorite movie, the seeds of the Lucas to come were being sown.
But yes, within the model, the very blatant model prison that they've
only a
got here. Yes, we are introduced to one Dr. Pamela Lillian Isley, played, of course, by the great Uma Thurman.
Oh, I love her so much. I'm obsessed
Her
with her.
middle name is Lillian.
Oh yes, this was a thing I had an interesting experience looking into this week.
That's my cat's name.
Oh, there you
Who
go.
was making a special appearance earlier. She's in a box right now. It's adorable.
The thing is, though, because I did look into obviously technically Poison Ivy is not on screen yet, so we won't go into the history of Poison Ivy just yet. Her first appearance, but I did think, like, oh, when did they start calling her Pamela Isley? That must be, like, because when she was first introduced, she is referred to for, like, several years as just Poison Ivy. So, went looking into this, and I just discovered that two weird things on the internet, okay, is that prior to being called Pamela Isley, in World's Finest 252 from September 1978, they give her a backstory where she's called Dr. Lillian Rose. Which was just like, okay, that's different.
Yeah.
So I was like, oh, so where did Pamela Isley come from? And the internet seems to throw up quite, adamantly that the Pamela Isley origin story would be really revamped by one Neil Gaiman of the Sandman and Good Omens and all this business of the really famous British sci-fi fantasy author.
Yes.
In January 1989, the same month that the first issue of The Sandman came out. He wrote a story called Pavan in Secret Origins Volume 2, number 36, where, it says, like, oh, yes, her name's actually Pamela Isley. And I was like, that's weird, though, because, like, he's a big name. And if Neil Gaiman basically co-created the modern concept of poison ivy, that would be a thing everyone would know about. Or at least it would be brought up a lot more. So after a while, I was like, I can't find anything else. You know what? He's on Twitter all the time. I'll just ask Neil Gaiman.
Oh, yeah, I saw this, yeah.
And shockingly enough, he got back to me. So I wrote him saying, like, preliminary research seems to indicate that, Pavan is the first use of the name Pamela Isley. Can you explain, like, why the change and all this business? And he got back and said, and I couldn't tell from his tone, I'm choosing to believe that he was being nice.
No, he was. I know you have a habit of misreading things now. Not misreading. You think the worst when you read something.
Yes, yeah, and so afterwards I said, go f*** yourself, Neil Gaiman. but no, he got back and said, preliminary research is in, you haven't started looking into it properly yet. No, that wasn't me. Keep digging. And so I was like, oh, thank you, Neil. Because I was just like, holy crap, Neil Gaiman actually responded to me. But then from that, though, because I did have an initial, like, I hope he's not been an asshole by Ben. Like, you've not even looked into it properly yet.
Can we invite him on the show?
I was half tempted to be like, if you want to come on, explain yourself. But then from looking at that, I did discover that, indeed, he is correct. That there was stories prior in 1974 in Justice League of America, and a storyline written by Len Wein. Poison Ivy is in that, and it specifies on a little wanted poster that her name is Pamela Isley. So that's only 4 years prior to this Lillian Rose story. So it's kind of like, I guess the writer of that just forgot it. Basically, they just didn't, I didn't realize that. But then, so when it comes back around to Pavan, Neil Gaiman specifies that it's Pamela Lillian Isley. And it's she then jokes about it in there going like, oh, you thought that story I made up to tell the doctors was real. Oh, no. My name was always Pamela Isley and whatnot. But I was shocked. Then the thing is, like, I only found that after having to do thorough digging.
Having to talk to Neil Gaiman.
Had to go talk to Neil Gaiman, and then I found it in a footnote. A footnote in an article where it just went like, way at the bottom, by the way, she was first called Pamela Isley, and this is like, why isn't that should be like in the Wikipedia up there going, she called it in this, called this and this.
So did you add it to the Wikipedia?
Yeah, you should.
Yeah, I should do. I should go in now and be like, it specifically says.
You did your research.
Yeah, this is why we need a
You
Bat
can
Minute
link to an
as well.
article.
Yeah, I wasn't too sure if I should get back to Neil Gaiman going like, you should be aware that the internet seems to be specifying you as the source of this name. But
that's what you should do, and then invite him on the show.
Yeah, all he can do is say no.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's fine.
There's no downside.
Exactly.
But yes, through run-ins with that guy, who's the Sandman's mom. Like, it is my favorite comic book line of all time. So it was just like, holy crap. Yes, so I do have specifically in 1974 in Justice League of America, we get the name Pamela Isley. So there you go. But the actual origin of Poison Ivy will come on later in the movie.
But can you explain the origin of the name Uma?
It's Swedish. She's Swedish, man.
I love
It
the
translates to sexy
name. Yep.
and talented and gorgeous.
If someone thinks otherwise, I don't want to hear from them. So shut up and keep your
they're
mouth
wrong.
I think that's the thing, though. Like, Uma Thurman is like consistently regarded as like one of the most beautiful women in the history of the world, pretty much. Like, she always comes up in those polls and stuff.
See, I think she is, but I think it's odd that the wider general populace thinks so, because I don't think she's good looking in the typical.
She's not conventionally good looking. No, she has like a wider set of eyes. She's very angular with her chin, but it's just that she's such an incredible actress. Her in Pulp Fiction is just cannot be compared. And then, but then you compare her to Kill Bill, and she's also incredible in Kill Bill.
Oh,
So-
God, yeah. No, that's
you
one of my
can't be
favorite
mad
things.
at her ever in anything that she's in.
I know she'd do the old singing and dancing too. Like you guys have covered a musical when she was in the Producers film.
Yes.
Oh yes.
What's her name in that? It was like Ula. Ula, that's right, yeah. I was like, that's very much preying on the idea. Like, the weird is she is a very sexually active character in that, as she is in this as well.
But is she a drag queen in that like she is in this?
But she isn't like. I don't think she is. I think she's a predator. Like I don't think she
Like
is,
a praying mantis.
Yeah, she's not really. She's not sleeping with any of these men. She's luring them to her kiss of death.
Yeah,
that is true.
She's not
That is
getting
true.
she's not getting that out of them at all. Not even
Right.
like, oh, I'm going to sleep with you and then kill you. None of that. Not like
yeah,
a Bond villain. You know, the evil
Yes.
Bond girl. There's always a good Bond girl and an evil one.
That was the thing, though, like with, because I was hoping I had a great Everything's Connected, where I was like, way back doing research in the Mr. Freeze minutes, I rewatched all the old 60s Mr. Freeze episodes. And in the very beginning of the first episode of Mr. Freeze showing up, Terry Garr, great actress Terry Garr, who was in Young Frankenstein and whatnot, she's visible as an extra. It's just like, it's Terry Garr, what the hell? And I was like, wasn't she Ula in The Producers? Looked into it, no.
Oh.
The thing is, she did, because the character of Ula, I was like, oh yeah, she's a sexy secretary type, and like, in a Mel Brooks movie, Mel Brooks' next movie was Young Frankenstein, where Terry Garr played the character of Inga. And then, when Uma Thurman, who was, Inga was essentially the sexy secretary to Frankenstein, and but she was basically the Ula part, which is why I got confused. And then when they made The Producers movie, Uma Thurman's character's full name is Ulla Inga Hansen, presumably in reference to like, oh yeah, it's like the same two characters. It's continuing on that legacy. And I was like, oh, that's a bit like when they called, Pamela Lillian Isley, and to combine the two names of those characters. But it was a bit of a stretch. Everything's connected. But I was like, I'm counting it. Damn it, I'm counting it.
Oh, big stretch.
It's kind of connected. Yes.
I like tinfoiling things, so I can stretch my tinfoil around that.
There is a immense Everything's Connected coming up later in the week.
Oh
So.
boy.
I'm excited for that. I can't wait to get to that. Let's just move to it now. Let's just skip everything else in between.
But no, I guess we do have the opening dialogue of Pamela Isley where she says, rats! Her plan to, to mate the something orchid and the South American rattlesnake. I couldn't get what type of orchid it was she was talking about.
No, same.
It sounds like an andromedon or something like that. It's like, oh, maybe, but it's not in the script. It's not in the novelization. It's just skimmed right over there. So,
And
But
what?
that's like spacey.
And you know what? Until we watched it minute by minute, I never, ever, ever noticed that she's got snakes. They're like sucking the venom out of them.
that's a real indication too. Is like she's all about the plants, doesn't give a crap about these animals.
No.
Where she's got the friggin' the snake on tap.
It looks
there.
quite
That's
torturous, actually. Yeah, I'm surprised that she supports that. You could imagine, we haven't met him yet, but if you've seen the movie, we could imagine the other guy being into doing this, but she seems like someone who would be opposed to it. Oh no, but this set, like this lab looks cool. It looks really, really great, I think. The inside,
Yes.
the outside's stupid, as I say. But
I kind of it specifies in the novelization as well is that coming up next minute, Dr. Jason Woodrue, he's the one with the lab inside the prison. Pamela Isley is in a tent outside.
Oh.
Like he's just going like, no, this is my lab. You can have this tent. That's where you can set up. Which is like, I kind of like though, because it's like, well, you're already the film does a good job establishing that he's an asshole. But that just adds to it.
Yeah.
It's just like, oh yeah, she's there doing some proper research, and like, yeah, this guy's not only is he stealing her venom samples constantly, he's also got her relegated to a goddamn tent on the outside of the building.
yeah, he doesn't see her as an equal. You could add a sexist sort of element there.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Oh, definitely.
Oh, there's a scene prior to him being introduced in the novelization as well, where he talks to her. And some of the things he's saying is like...
Well, I've got this as well. It might be the same as the script. I'm not sure.
It's like he's just talking like, oh, I'd love to share my secrets with you, but I ask you, sweet sapling, can you be trusted?
Yeah.
But you refuse my invitations to dine. You hide your honeyed bud behind those shallow robes. It's like,
Yeah.
you.
He's basically saying, whip him out for me. Come on. Yeah, it's really gross. But it also it makes his character even more fascinatingly vile.
Yes.
And there's another thing he says that he like adds to it. I'm trying to find it now because I had it for a different. Here you go. Yeah, because she says to him, "You have to tell me what you're doing with my venom," and he responds with, "You must show me your secrets, Blossom, before I show you mine." So,
I don't like it.
But what do you guys think of the portrayal of Poison Ivy? Like, do you see her as? Because she's kind of like the follow-up to Catwoman in this franchise,
Yes.
where Catwoman was like a sort of revered as a kind of feminist icon at the time and still today. But how would you view Poison Ivy in a positive feminist light, or do you think that she
Yes.
falls back in old tropes or anything?
I mean, I have always had a soft spot for like all of the female Batman villains.
Mm-hmm. Same.
So I love,
Uma.
oh my god, I love Poison Ivy. I love Catwoman. I love Harley Quinn. Like,
See, and that
I love the girls.
I was gonna say that Poison Ivy is more like closer to Harley Quinn.
Well, they're
as
both
a character.
doctors.
Okay, yes, and they're both eccentric and crazy for their cause. Like, they will not stop. To quote her talking later to Bruce when she's like, we don't have, people can die due to not heating or cooling food. That's fine. A small price to pay to save the planet. Like, that's a little crazy. And I think we get, like, I don't know. Anytime a woman is in a movie, I like to think of, like, why is she crazy? Like, what in her life has she experienced that she is now to this point about her cause?
Mm-hmm.
That she does think that people dying is worth saving the planet, instead of putting her smarts toward like a solution instead of what she thinks is the solution. Like, that's not the solution. She's
and
too...
that's why I love Catwoman so much, is because like she was driven to the point where she was because of all of the men around her in her life.
Yes.
She was driven to that point. So it's like the reason I love the female villains in Batman is because they all have really great backstories of like, they're not just evil for evil's sake. They're evil because of all of these extenuating circumstances.
Yep. Because they have to be a woman in a man's world.
Yeah.
far more interesting than just women be crazy, which a lot of things do. It's like, no. Yeah, as you say, Catwoman, she was responding to the men in her life
Yes.
who had mistreated her, which is much more interesting.
Exactly.
But one thing though, like as we were talking about, the how well regarded Uma Thurman is and has been throughout her lifetime. One question we always we've brought up consistently throughout the show, dating way back to '89, and since you guys are new voices to the show, is that when I was but a young man, I was under the impression that Jack Nicholson was regarded as being like a sexy guy, and been like he was a sex icon, and I found out from doing the show. That ain't so.
No.
That was erroneous on my part. But are you guys? Have you ever been like, oh yeah, Jack Nicholson, or is it like?
Well,
he
I
might
mean,
even be like way out of your generation. He's like, oh,
This
Jack, ooh.
this is the perfect question for Hayley,
Yes.
because another movie in her top 5 is The Shining.
Absolutely, Kate.
Ah.
100% right.
So you're watching The Shining, going like, oh yeah, baby, you swing that axe.
So here's what I would say. I would say Jack Nicholson, the person, the actor, the performer, is sexy because he's just like, I can't imagine meeting him and being like that close to him. He just exudes
Like
star power
confidence.
and confidence. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Like, even though he's just I would compare him. I just watched a scene from Silence of the Lambs again recently. I'd compare him to Anthony Hopkins. Not
another very handsome man.
Yeah, handsome. Maybe classically handsome, I guess you would say. But like, not. I wouldn't say like any of the characters. Well, no, in Chinatown, I think Jack Nicholson's very charming.
See, in my book, Jack Nicholson is like in the same category of like attractiveness as like Ted Bundy. Like some people are just so weirdly attracted to them, and some people are just like, no, not my, no,
Yep.
Like it's just a very like polarizing thing.
Well, I suppose it's if the charisma aspect can kind of trump. I hate to use that word these days. The
We
looks,
don't talk about them anymore.
the looks aspect, because I mean, yeah, he's not hideous, and Ted Bundy wasn't a hideous person either.
No,
but
hideous on the inside. But...
yeah. But neither of them
and
are
that's
like
what's so
stunning.
scary about The
are they?
Shining is like you justify. You do get a little charmed by him, and you are a little bit like, I don't want him to be going crazy because.
And I think that's why I compare him in my brain to like the Ted Bundy type, is because it's like he plays that character so well that it's so believable, where it's like, I could see myself getting charmed by you, but you're also just totally repulsive.
Well, what about, though, in the other end of the spectrum, Arnold Schwarzenegger in this movie? Was he
Sexy?
Sexy?
Okay.
I loved Arnold. He's not in our minutes that we're discussing, so I didn't know if he was free reign.
Oh, no, the whole movie's free reign if you want to bring up any aspect of it.
I love Mr. Freeze as a character. Yeah. I think his motivation is so human and so... Oh my gosh, I felt for his plight.
Aww.
I didn't feel he was a bad guy because he didn't even... He doesn't want to, like, blow up hospitals like the Joker does, you know? He wants to hold the town for ransom so he can have funding to do good research.
Yeah, he's just
like,
gone too
why
far
does he have
with it, hasn't he?
Yeah, exactly. Again, a person who's been driven to this point because there's a class problem in Gotham City, clearly, if, like, researchers are having problems getting funding...
Well, considering that the Wayne, Bruce Wayne himself is the number one person giving money out to scientists to do research.
Exactly. And, like, if you consider that at the end, Mr. Freeze gets the funding for his research, like, did he attain his goal?
In a way.
Effectively?
Well, we don't ever find out what happens with his very specific goal of his wife, but... He's achieved step one.
I know the horrible thing is, it's like, he just chucked an Arkham. Like, it's just like, he never gets near a laboratory ever again in his life. Bruce Wayne's just like, hey, not my problem. So, I got my cure.
Yeah, I thought that Mr. Freeze was really... And I loved Arnold Schwarzenegger. Like, I may have been watching it too seriously in being like, no, he's a great actor. I believe him. I believe he's corny because doctors are corny. Like, doctors have bedside manners where they make the cheesy joke of take two and call me in the morning.
That's true.
So for him to also be... Hey guys, chill. Like, that's so fitting for that character that's a doctor that is isolated. He has no family, no friends. He keeps everybody far away from him. Mm-hmm. And
he's isolated.
That's someone who doesn't know how to relate. Yeah.
Well, I've never considered that, though, that's why he's doing all the puns. It's like, it's a doctor's bedside manner. That he would always be cracking little jokes.
I suppose, I'd never
exactly.
thought of it. No, he loved it. He really was, like, excited to be a Batman villain. And he's like, I want people to, when they get to, I can't remember the exact wording, but it's like when they get to Batman, 20, people will look back at their favorite villains, and he's like, he wanted to be in the discussion. It's like, oh, that's cute.
That's so sweet. He just wanted to be included.
Yeah.
He didn't want to be the best Batman villain. He just wanted to be...
A Batman villain.
Yeah.
We like our former governor.
Yeah.
He's a sweet guy.
He seems all right these days as well, even politically, because I know he's technically a Republican, but he seems to not be a normal Republican.
No, he's like a decent human being.
He's pretty moderate in general. He's pretty, like,
Yeah.
middle of... He likes to hear people's opinions,
Yeah.
you know? And that's important in a person that's elected to do those things.
Well, as
I
well, you
realize,
know...
you guys might be the first guests who've come on who were there during the Iron Fist ruling of Arnold Schwarzenegger over California. It's like, oh yes, the benevolent regime of Governor Schwarzenegger.
Those were good 4 years.
Was it 4 years?
I think it was a short... I wasn't living here at the time.
I don't remember.
Yeah.
Happy days. Happy
you know,
days.
Happy days.
But yeah, I'm noted out for this movie. This minute.
This
I was gonna say
movie.
This movie. Like, that's it. We're cutting it off. 16 minutes.
See everyone.
That was good. We can stop it now.
Yep, I'm noted out for this minute as well.
Yeah, unless you guys have anything specific you want to bring up about minute 16, or shall we mosey on?
I'm excited to talk about the lab because as soon as I saw it, I was like, I know why we got these minutes.
Yeah, let's go up to that lab and see what's on the slab.
Yeah. Let's do it. Let's do it. Would our wonderful guests like to tell people where they can be found online and whatnot before we head into the dark, dark night?
You can follow us on Instagram at Time Warp Radio or at Shock Treat Minute.
You can find us on Facebook at Time Warp Radio Podcast or Time Warp Radio Presents.
And we release new episode. As they said earlier, we just finished analyzing the Rocky Horror Picture Show. So the entire first season is up for binging. And now we are analyzing in 5-minute segments the Rocky Horror sequel / equal, apparently.
Oh, no.
Called Shock Treatment. So we are premiering that. I don't know when this episode will be released.
Oh, this will be out like 10 weeks' time. It'll be. I think you'll
wonderful.
be deep into the season by then.
Perfect. New episodes are coming out every other Wednesday, and we love talking about weird movies. So maybe you guys might like listening.
Yeah, that certainly is a great soundtrack with a movie attached to it. So.
You're not wrong. You are not wrong.
That is a very good way to describe Shock Treatment, actually. Yes.
Make sure you do tune in and listen to the show, everybody. And come and speak to us on Facebook at the Batminute Listeners Cave, Twitter at Batminute, Instagram The Batminute, and buy a shirt on TeePublic or something. I don't know. Buy a bunch of junk off us. It helps. And we will see you again on Wednesday for more Batminute and Robin.
Next time. Bling, blong, bling, bling, ba-doo-doo. Ba-doo-ba-doo. The Governator was billed playing a guy who's chilled. It was more than some could stand. And George Clooney was there in rubber underwear. O'Donnell was a heartthrob who's bland. Then something went wrong for Glover and Thurman. They got caught and roped into the band. The hammy acting is ace. They're chewing up the space. And this is how the minute ran. Coming next time on Bat Minute, Pammy's patience has reached its limit. Jason Woodrue might be a pain, but will a spitting subject be his own bane. Whoa. In the next time on Bat Minute episode, I wanna go. Whoa. In the next time on Bat Minute episode.
We'll be back.